In a highly controversial move, a federal judge in New Hampshire has blocked President Trump's executive order ban on birthright citizenship. So, Billy, what exactly is birthright citizenship and what does this block do?
Yeah, so it's this idea that if you're born in America, right, regardless of the circumstance, you essentially become a citizen, right? That is an interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And Trump has disputed that. Obviously, the issue here is illegal immigration. If you have illegal immigrants who have a child here, should that child become a citizen? Right now, there are people who have become citizens because their parents maybe brought them over here and the parents aren't citizens. Well, their parents didn't bring them here. They came here and then had them as babies here. And because of that, they are then granted citizenship. So this is going back and forth in the courts right now. There are a lot of lawsuits. The Supreme Court sort of dealt with the issue, but didn't really deal with the core issue of whether or not birthright citizenship is an actual right. And so what you have right now is a judge stepping in and basically blocking this, which it was set to take effect later on in July, this ban on birthright citizenship. Now, who knows what's going to happen next?
Well, what's interesting, this judge, Joseph LaPlante, is actually an appointee of George W. Bush. Let me read something from The Hill because I think it helps clarify. It says LaPlante's decision comes after the Supreme Court curtailed judges' ability to issue nationwide injunctions against Trump's policies, but left open a door for challengers to try to seek broad relief by filing class action lawsuits, which I thought was kind of helpful because, people say, well, didn't the Supreme Court just deal with this? Well, no, there are loopholes. Obviously we're going to keep you up to date with this on CBN News, but what's next, Billy? What happens from here?
Well, I think you're going to have a big battle about this, right? Because this is an idea that really, we had somebody on at CBN a few months ago, Claremont Institute scholar John Eastman, and he was talking about the history of this. This goes back very, very far, really trying to figure out, well, why was the 14th Amendment added to the Constitution, right? What was the history behind that? And so you're going to have to you're fighting a battle that goes back to 1866. He said at the time, there was an attempt with the 14th Amendment to clarify, to codify the Civil Rights Act of 1866. But he said there was no court decision, no formal pronouncement granting this birthright citizenship. He talked about a number of the Supreme Court cases that had unfolded over the years. The one that everybody sort of points to, and I just want to give this history because it is important, United States versus Wong Kim Ark. It was an 1898 case, so over 100 years ago. It was a guy who was born in San Francisco to Chinese parents. Those parents were permanent residents, but not U.S. citizens. And then he was later denied re-entry to the U.S. after a trip to China. And so that was a Supreme Court case. It was ruled 6-2 in his favor that he was born in the U.S. and that because of that, there was citizenship. So we have to clarify this, right? It's going to be a bigger battle. I wouldn't be shocked if it made its way back at some point to the Supreme Court.
Almost certainly, this idea of, quote unquote, anchor babies. This is something that, when we touch on different political subjects, it elicits a response. But this particular subject, wow, look at the comment section. People have very, very heated opinions. I'm sure this move by this judge in New Hampshire will also elicit a bunch of comments and opinions. Keep it right here on CBN News. We will keep you updated. But that's the news for now. Billy, thank you for your time.
Thank you.